A Husker loss to Minnesota at home on Saturday morning. Jump out to the 10-0 lead. They lead into the locker room, and you knew that Minnesota would make a comeback. They take the opening drive at the second half. They kick a field goal and slowly but surely take control of the football game, I should say, as Mo Ibrahim ends up with 128 yards. Nebraska really did a good job defensively, but just not enough.
No, it wasn't. And you and I were talking a couple of minutes ago, and I said I actually enjoyed being pissed that we were in a game with a team we were a 2-touchdown dog to with a backup quarterback.
Yeah, that felt like last
late
year.
In the fourth quarter.
That felt like last year, all of last year, 3-9, the best worst team in college football. There was a little bit of that from last year. But I guess going into this game, you thought without Casey, there's really little hope that you can win this football game. Minnesota was, a 14.5-point, 15-point favorite. But then you saw a little hope after that opening drive. Nebraska, one thing they do under Mark Whipple is script opening drives for touchdowns. Yeah. He's very good at that. And he conjured up a series of plays that got them in the end zone. A lot of it was with Chubba Purdy's feet, but he ends up running 2 yards for the opening touchdown. I think maybe this is a game, and then we'll see Logan sprinkled in. I still thought you were going to see Logan in this game earlier than you did, but you did not. And they just didn't have enough. 6 straight drives where they went 3 and out.
Yeah, and it was 18 straight plays where, I'll be honest, you talk about a scripted and how awesome that first drive is a lot of times, not just yesterday, but that's been the case this entire season. That was 18 straight plays where it looked like they didn't have a playbook with them. They didn't know what to call. And that is befuddling to me. They figured it out. Yeah. You know, they got into the fourth quarter, they're down 20-10, and they finally got a first down. And then they were able to, Anthony Grant breaks a run finally. They finally blocked the way they were supposed to. But that middle 2 quarters and those 18 plays, those 6 straight 3 and outs, I'm looking, I was out in Alma with my folks, mom and dad, and I'm like, hey, what? What? No.
Yeah. And, it just feels like when Casey Thompson is not in the ball game, and obviously he wasn't in the ball game at all yesterday, Nebraska doesn't really have an answer. They don't have a backup quarterback. This is Mickey Joseph after the game talking about Casey Thompson and him not being available.
Well, I thought he had a better feeling. He had more feeling in his hand today, but I just didn't feel comfortable playing him. He's been hit a lot this year.
He had that thing earlier this week when I think Anthony Grant didn't play in a particular game. He was banged up. He goes, the parents don't make the decision about who's playing. The player doesn't make the decision about who's playing. The player tells me in warmups whether they're ready to go. And he said it was going to be a game time decision. I really believe that Mickey felt that way because Casey Thompson was pushing to play, pushing really hard. And I thought he might win out. I really thought that the quarterback might win out because sometimes they do. they beg the coach enough and you're sick of, are we there yet? It's the kid in the back of the station wagon. Are we there? Okay, we're there. Whatever if you want us to stop and get you a beverage and some pop, or just shut up. Go in the game and shut up. I thought that might happen, but it didn't. And Mickey stuck to his guns, and for a while it worked. But they just didn't have an answer, and you wonder whether Logan should have gotten more series. He got the 1 series, and then he was taken out, and then finally Chubba throws the interception, and then he's gone for good.
Yeah, I was puzzled, I guess. I anticipated a bit of a quarterback rotation just to see, and I get it. Things went well for Chubba the first 2 series. But after that, the next 2 series that don't really go anywhere, at that time, I genuinely was like, okay, this is now the perfect time. You've got probably maybe an option play or two, a zone read or two. Logan Smothers is going to come in, and maybe you're going to run 3 straight zone reads. You get a first down, and then you run a 4th straight, and Travis Vokalek is open over the middle and on a seam route, and there you go.
Yeah,
that didn't happen. We continued on for the next.
Let's be honest,
30 minutes of game time.
Neither quarterback played great, but there were some drops in that game. There were at least 4 drops that I counted.
Trey Palmer had 2 of them.
And you know that I mean, whether it's the first or second string or third string quarterback, you got to help your quarterback out. And especially when it's the second and third string guy. Vokalek dropped a touchdown pass that probably was a little ill-advised in that it should have been thrown right away, and then he waited, and it was almost picked off, but it got through. But it was hard to see with all the hands, and Vokalek didn't catch the ball. But this is Mickey Joseph talking about Chuba not performing at the highest level.
Well, he's not seeing the coverage. He's not seeing, the progression that he needs to get to, the way he needs to get the ball to. We have kids running open, and he's got to find him. He's got to find him. He's got to hit him.
One of the things that happens when you get nervous, in whether you're playing sports or anything, you don't see everything. You don't see everything. The more prepared sometimes you are, the better you perform, either on this show or in sports. You feel your comfort for a lot of athletes is in preparation. And he did play better, and a lot of that had to do with the fact that he got first-team reps this week. So he was a better quarterback, certainly, than he was when he had to come in versus Illinois. But Mickey's right. He's just not seeing the field very well.
Yeah, and at what point did they realize that, and why was he not taken out of the game at that point, or did it take him until he threw an ill-advised pass that wound up as an interception that they finally discovered he wasn't throwing the ball to the open guy? That comment puzzles me.
Don't you think there might be a tug of war that Mickey probably doesn't want to get into with his offensive coordinator? I've wondered. Those conversations happen all the time. Why aren't you putting in Logan? Because Logan, and Mickey did say that, Logan performed Saturday, but he hasn't been performing at a really high level in practice every day. And we have to see it in practice. And I can appreciate that, that if you're not seeing it in practice every day, but there are players that are just gamers. Like they get in a game and the lights go on and they're just better. And the reverse can happen. A quarterback can practice really well and the lights go on and they don't play as well. And that might be what's happening to Chuba a little bit. Maybe Logan's more of the gamer right now than Chuba is. Let's be honest. He's still a sophomore. He's a young football player, while Logan, experience-wise, is a pretty young football player.
He is. He's been in the program 3 years. Granted, the offense took a turn this year from something that, he was brought in to run, and now this is an offense that he does not run or that doesn't suit his strengths. But at the same time, he has been here long enough, and he's been in this offense long enough now, spring ball all the way through. I guess, and maybe it's just based on being a fan and seeing what he did and the way he carried himself after the Iowa game last year, the way he played. And then, he faltered in the fourth quarter and he had his head down, and I can't remember who it was came over and made him, put his head up and all that. And maybe that's just part of the fan in me thinking I would have given him more opportunity than I have. But again, you and I aren't at practice. We don't see what happens. We don't see, if somebody's underthrowing balls or missing targets, etc. The other frustrating thing, Casey Thompson had a little bit of an issue with it early in the season. Trey Palmer is simply open, other than against Illinois. And Trey Palmer beats everybody down the field. Just throw the damn ball as far as you can. And lo and behold, there was, a play in the first half that Trey Palmer, if the ball would have been thrown 15 yards further downfield, right, Trey Palmer would have run under it in stride and it would have been a touchdown. Instead, he had to stop and almost go backwards to try to get a Chuba Purdy pass. It's like, dude, what? Again, I'm not out there.
Nebraska ended up scoring
just
on
throw
that
the damn
drive.
ball as far as you can. Let him go get it.
Right. And that was one of the things that a friend of mine said, well, because on the next play, Chuba ended up using his legs and he ran for like 12 or 15 yards. And he did something that Casey doesn't do. I understand that not every quarterback's the same. His strength is really right now, as a redshirt freshman, by the way, he's not a sophomore, he's a redshirt freshman. His legs are really his ability on the field, because Mickey's right. He doesn't see it very well all the time. Whereas Jordan's legs are kind of his thing as well, but he seemed to throw the ball better. I think Mark Whipple looks at arm strength, being a guy who's played with Ben Roethlisberger in the NFL when he actually had arm strength, and Kenny Pickett, big arm guy. He wants an NFL quarterback back there. And Logan is probably not, as far as arm strength is concerned, an NFL quarterback. I get that. He was recruited for a kind of a different system.